Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. How are you? Hopefully you are in good condition today. We are from group 3 with the members are Arfa Munawela, Azkia Asifa, Nabila Husna, and Nada Fatin. I will explain to you about teaching vocabulary and pronunciation. So first will be explained by me, Nada Fatin. Ladies and gentlemen, vocabulary skill is often considered as a critical aspect of foreign language learners, as limited vocabulary in a second language impedes successful communication. Considering the importance of vocabulary acquisition, Smith emphasizes that lexical knowledge is central to communicative competence and to the acquisition of a second language. Nation then describes the correlation between vocabulary knowledge and language practice as complementary, that is, the skill of vocabulary enables language use and conversely. Language use leads to an increase in vocabulary knowledge. The importance of vocabulary is demonstrated daily. In classroom, the achieving students possess the most sufficient vocabulary. Researchers have realized that the acquisition of vocabulary is essential for successful foreign language use and plays an important role in the formation of complete spoken and written text. Learning vocabulary items plays a vital role in all language skills. Al-Qahtani furthermore argued that the acquisition of an adequate vocabulary is essential for successful foreign language use because without an extensive vocabulary, a language learner will be unable to use the structures and functions we may have learned for comprehensible communication. Some research has shown that second language readers rely heavily on vocabulary knowledge, and the lack of that knowledge is the main and the largest obstacle for readers to overcome. In production, when language learners have a meaning or concept that they wish to express, they need to have a store of words from which they can select to express this meaning or concept. When language learners travel, they do not carry grammar books, but dictionaries. Many researchers argue that vocabulary is one of the most important components in learning a foreign language, and foreign language curricula must reflect this. There was not much value in being able to produce grammatical sentences if one was not get the vocabulary that needed to convey what one wished to say. We can say that without grammar very little can be conveyed. Without vocabulary, nothing can be conveyed. Many reasons for devoting attention to vocabulary. First, a large vocabulary is of course essential for mastery of a language. Second language acquirers know that they carry dictionaries with them, not grammar books, and regularly report that the lack of vocabulary is a major problem. On the other hand, vocabulary has been acknowledged as language learners' greatest single source of problems. This remark may possibly reflect that the open-endedness of vocabulary system is perceived to be a cause of difficulty by learners. Another possible reason is that, unlike syntax or phonology, vocabulary doesn't have rules. The language learners may follow to acquire and develop their knowledge. In other words, it is not clear in vocabulary learning what rules apply or which vocabulary item should be learned first. Vocabulary was by far sizable and a manageable component in the learning of any language, whether a foreign or one's mother tongue, because of tens of thousands of different meanings. Despite these difficulties that language learners face in alto vocabulary, they still have to deal with it in their examinations, as vocabulary has traditionally been one of the language components measured in language tests. Furthermore, many learners see second language acquisition as essentially a matter of learning vocabulary and therefore they spend a great deal of time on memorizing lists of words and rely on their bilingual dictionary as a basic communicative resource. It can be concluded that language teachers and applied linguists now generally recognize the importance of vocabulary learning and are exploring ways of promoting it more effectively. So that is the explanation about introduction of teaching vocabulary. Now we move to teaching pronunciation. Ladies and gentlemen, pronunciation on teaching is most complicated but significant aspects of ESL or ESL teaching. In the process of communication, pronunciation has great importance because successful communication takes place only with correct pronunciation. Bad pronunciation of English will make people misunderstand the speaker easily, whereas good pronunciation will encourage them to listen the speaker willingly. Noonan has mentioned that teaching of pronunciation is dealt from different point of view because influence of first language seems prominent in case of pronunciation and only gifted learners can attain the mastery over pronunciation though they start learning language after puberty. Pronunciation on includes suprastigmental features, and they are sounds of the language, stress and rhythm, intonation, and etc. Each language has a great number of possible sounds. For example, English has 44 distinctive sounds, whereas in English there are 26 alphabets. Since alphabets are not able to show the difference between different sounds like this and sang, these difficulties can be removed by introducing international phonetic alphabets. In language classrooms, use of correct language stress and pitch pattern will help the students to improve the production of vowel and consonant sounds. Incorrectly articulated consonants and vowel sounds affect one another. Teachers often concentrate only on teaching difficult sounds articulation and allow the class to produce native-like sounds, though the endeavor doesn't work among the learners after this master. Accurate pronunciation helps students to achieve goal in communication. Example, their utterance can be understood by the audience clearly and easily, and they will also be able to understand native speakers' conversations. But achieving accuracy in pronunciation doesn't become so easy for the students, and teaching pronunciation seems to be difficult for the teachers. So that is the explanation about the introduction of teaching vocabulary and pronunciation. Next will be explained by my friend.
Hi, I am Azkia Asifa. Here, once I explain to you methods of teaching vocabulary and pronunciation. Okay, class, first, what we have to highlight here is that teaching vocabulary and pronunciation is not as simple as giving a series of vocabulary to the students and force them to memorize it. No. Not only children but also adults will feel frustrated by that, and in the end they don't want to learn anymore. So class, here we provide 5 methods that are believed to be effective in teaching pronunciation and vocabulary. Okay. Class, let's begin with the first one, direct method. So direct method is a method that is designed to teach vocabulary, how to learn it, and also repeat the long one. This method is divided into two, definitional method and contextual method. In definitional method, there are two techniques, word list and word analysis. In word list, the students will be given a number of vocabularies, then they actively look for it in dictionaries, use it in sentences, and also finally it becomes their daily vocabulary. While in word analysis, the students just looks for the unknown vocabulary in dictionaries. The next one is contextual method. So class, this method, as its name, it tries to teach or guide students to find the meaning of the vocabulary that they don't know by some clues that exist in the sentence or the passage. Here, there are also two techniques, incidental learning and context clues. Alright class, that is the explanation about direct method. The next one is indirect method. Indirect method is a method that usually occurs in reading or writing activities. The difference between indirect and direct method is on the purpose or teacher's intention in the class. If indirect method, teacher really wants to teach the class about vocabulary and pronunciation, while in indirect method, the teacher's purpose in the class is not to teach vocabulary and pronunciation. For example, in reading activities, actually the teacher just want to give some text to read. Then, of course, in the middle of learning, students will find vocabularies that they don't know, and finally they look for it. This is what is indirect method. Then let's move on to the third method, that is total physical response method or TPR method. This method is where action and speech are integrated. So the teacher doesn't only say the word but also practice, but also doing action that draw the meaning of the vocabulary. For example, when we want to teach the word right, the teacher can perform right, right, and something like that. This is TPR method. Number 4 is games method. This method is still believed to be the effective method in teaching language because here students will never be burdened in learning. There are some games that is believed to be effective in teaching vocabulary and pronunciation. Those are spelling bee, tongue twisters, debate, to name a few things, and many more. Class, this is the last method. Number 5, storytelling method. This is an old traditional method, but still effective today. In the story, of course, students will find some vocabularies that they don't know before, and here they don't only get new vocabulary, but also know how to use it properly. And of course, we'll get the right pronunciation that will be pronounced by the teacher. Class, those are 5 methods of teaching vocabulary and pronunciation: direct method, indirect method, TPR method, games method, and the last one is storytelling methods. Next, you'll be heard about techniques in teaching vocabulary and pronunciation. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Nablosna and now I will explain about the technique of teaching vocabulary and pronunciation. The first is technique for teaching vocabulary. In this section, we will look at various techniques for presenting and to a lesser degree practicing vocabulary. It is important to realize that a good teacher will not really on just one of these techniques, but will use a combination. The first technique is visual and realia. One of the most effective ways of teaching vocabulary is to show students the word. Concrete words, mostly nouns, can usually be conveyed through picture or realia or real object. The second is mime and anecdotes. Visual and realia are usually limited to concrete words and are probably ineffectual when it comes to more abstract notion and even some basic area of vocabulary such as verb, adverb, and adjective. And the third is eliciting and context. Eliciting word from student is an effective way of activating their memories. In a class of students, it is quite possible that one or two may have come across the word before, even with low level. And using synonym and antonym, a technique of use by often used by teacher, especially at low level, is to explain word by using synonym or antonym. And translation. Translation is another technique that has pros and cons. Many teacher and teacher trainers see translation as a bad thing. They seem to feel that translation will in some way prevent the student from ever becoming proficient in the target language. This is quite obviously not true. And dictionary. Giving your students strategies for learning is an important part of teaching. When you consider the amount of time your student will spend outside the classroom. And the second is technique of teaching pronunciation. There are some techniques that teacher can be used in teaching pronunciation. The first is drilling. Drilling is one of main ways of teaching pronunciation which is practiced in classroom. Drilling is basic for teaching pronunciation or word stress, sentence stress, and intonation. The aims of drilling are to help the learner to get better pronunciation and to help them to keep in mind new items. The kind of drills are stated by Larsen Freeman as follows: backward, bull and wool up drill, repetition drill, trench drill, single slot substitutions drill, multiple slot substitutions drill, transformational drill, and question and answer drill. The second is minimal pair. Teachers use minimal pairs in the classroom as a process of focus on sounds that are difficult for learner. These activities is teacher give to word whose pronunciation is different by only one sound, such as rich and rich, buff and buff, or man or mine. And the third is visual aids. Improvement of teachers descriptive of how sound are produced by audiovisual aids such as picture, mirror, road sounds, color card, relia, and others. And the fourth is communicative activity. All of the activities such as interview, role plays, drama, speech, and audio tape, dialogue, journal can be used in classroom to practice pronunciation. Meanwhile, all of those activities are not possible done in class. It happened because the situation and facilities is not allowed. And the last is reading aloud. Focus on stress timing and intonation are the part of script for learner in learning pronunciation.
Alright, now we go to the strategies in teaching vocabulary and pronunciation. We should know the definition of strategy first. Well, Latin defines strategy as the generalized plan for a lesson. But actually, the strategy in teaching vocabulary and strategy in teaching pronunciation is different. So I will first explain to you the strategy in teaching vocabulary. Well, refer to the experts. There are so many kind of strategies that can be used to teach vocabulary. But here, I will only explain to you the 8 strategies to teach vocabulary in the classroom. So the first one is modeling and demonstration. In this strategy, teacher should read the vocabulary or the words and the student will follow the teacher. The second one is realia. What is realia? Realia is the use of the object that can be seen by the students. Realia includes the object, the action, the real factors, and the concrete material, and also the activity for every element. Now we go to number 3, that is picture. Picture is a capture of a moment.
So the picture that can be used here, just like a family picture, a holiday picture, memorable picture, the coloring pages, and etc. The next one, we go to the translation. Well, we know that translation focuses in the meaning. But here, in this strategy, the translation introduces the word to the student's mother tongue. The next one, we go to the action, meme, or gesture. So, the thing that can be used here, just like role play, and also the games, the riddle, the charades, and many more. Then we go to the memorization. We know that memorization is a little bit hard for a student, so we should provide it in a fun way, just like the vocabulary bingo and a checker. A checker means each student will get the checker board. So here, student will work in a pair. One of the students will mention the vocabulary, and one or another one will check the vocabulary in the checkerboard. Now we go to the last, that is song. We all know that all other people love to sing a song, also children. With this song, children will feel happy, will feel like to study. So they will easy to remember the vocabulary. What kind of assignment or task that can we give to them? It can be like the fill in the blank. So the student can fill the missing word or the missing vocabulary. Alright friends, now we go to the strategy in teaching pronunciation. Chalka in his book categorized the strategy to teach pronunciation into two. The first one is direct strategy and indirect strategy. In the direct strategy, it is divided into three. The first one is memory-related strategy. In this strategy, the student can use the phonemic symbol or any kind of symbol to know the sound or to make them easy to remember the sound of a word. The second one, that is a cognitive strategy. In this kind of strategy, it is used by learners when they are imitating the teacher's pronunciation or their friend's pronunciation. To support this kind of strategy, we can use some of eight, just like the television, the movie, radio, the demonstration, the presentation, and etc. And now we go to the last of the direct strategy, that is compensatory strategy. Well, in this kind of strategy, teacher will give a word or many words to students to make them learn a sound. Examples just like when the teacher wants the student be able to pronounce shin sound, so the teacher will give the student the words such as administration and information. By giving them a variety of words or vocabulary, so the student will be easy to learn the pronunciation of a sound. Now we go to the indirect strategy. Metacognitive strategy is the first strategy that includes in the indirect. Means that here the teacher will focus on the process of their student. In this kind of strategy, the teacher will identify the learning style of her or his students and monitoring them, giving them the task, and set the target of their learning. The next one is affective strategies. The students will ask to read the text, and then in the end, the teacher will correct the mispronunciation of the student. The last one, that is social strategies. Asking correction understanding the culture from the English speaker from their friends is one of the examples in implementing these social strategies. So friends, that is the various strategies in teaching vocabulary and pronunciation that I can explain to you. I hope you can understand it. Thank you.
Alright, that's all the presentation of Group 3 about teaching pronunciation and vocabulary. We thank you all for your kind attention and we do apologize for all our mistakes. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.